Hey everybody, welcome to the video. So we're breaking down the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway on Saturday night, September 19th at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern. If you guys have been watching my videos for quite some time, you probably know I'm very excited for this race. I absolutely love Bristol, not only from a DFS standpoint, but just from a fan standpoint as well. It's very exciting racing. It's a very short track, and sometimes it can be a little bit chaotic as well. So I'm really looking forward to this. It should be a good one, and it's the playoffs as well, and it's a night race, so you're pretty much just checking off each and every single box. Should be very entertaining to watch. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like. I know it's something as small as just leaving a like on a video, but the more you guys interact with my content, leaving likes, leaving comments, and all that fun stuff, it's going to help me out, and I really do appreciate that, and you guys do a good job of that already. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button. And we're all season long trying to help you guys become better NASCAR DFS players, and I cover other sports as well, including the NFL, each and every single week. So if you're going to keep coming back to the channel each and every single day, or each and every single week, you might as well hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new videos or when I go live on race day. And if you don't follow me on social media, I'm at Pennell16 on Twitter, cpen16 over on IG. And if you want to support my content over on Patreon, always much appreciated. We got 300 plus members. You can hop into the Discord chat, bug me all day if you want. I do not mind. I'll answer all of your questions and just come in, hang out, and you get access to all the extra tools that I have on my spreadsheet that I don't show you guys on YouTube, including the projections, which have been pretty good so far this season. They have taken down quite a few tournaments. Power rankings, which is a statistical-based model ranking guys based on their previous numbers here at certain tracks, and a bunch of other factors as well. Green flag speed cheat sheet, which is something I used heavily so far this season, especially with not having practice. My cheat sheet, my GBB driver exposure, so you know exactly where my money's going because I max out 150 lineups each and every single week. Heat map, previous optimal lineups, 2020 optimal lineups. Past Bristol slate analysis, looking at previous ownership at this track earlier in the season and last year as well, and a bunch of other stuff too. So it's all on there in the spreadsheet. So if you're interested, links down below. If not, that's fine. Let's just get into the preview of this race. And as always, I forgot to mention when the live stream is going to be. And since the race is around 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night, I think we could probably do either 5 or 6 o'clock. Probably 5 o'clock. Maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock. Just plan it around that time. I'll let you guys know on Twitter, and also have it posted the day beforehand as well. And also, if you want to get into the DK contest, I will be running that once again. It's going to be $5 entry, and I'll do 100 people, and it's going to pay out the top 20. Now, I almost didn't fill it last Saturday, so hopefully we can get some more people to join once again. I remember when I first did it, I filled that out very, very quick. So if you want in, just leave your DK username below. It's only $5, and it pays out the top 20. It's not winners take all, so you guys have a decent chance of winning some money. And yeah, so if you want in, just comment your DK username below. Say something nice, say something mean, whatever you want to do. And I think that's pretty much it for all the housekeeping we got to do. So let's just dive into the preview of this race. This is the Bass Pro Shops night race that I mentioned already before. We are at Bristol Motor Speedway. There's your outline of the track. It's a very short, steep track. It's about a half mile in length, just a little bit over that. And we have a massive, and I mean massive, 500 laps on tap for us, which means we have nearly 400 Dominator points for us. So if the numbers don't tell you already, you got to nail your Dominators. That's the most important thing here at Bristol. If you don't have Dominators in your lineup, one, you're not going to win money. And if you don't nail your Dominators, you're also not going to win money. So you got to get Dominators in your lineup. You're going to want 2 to 4 per lineup. Now, this week, I will say Draftkings did a very good job of pricing up their Dominators. So it's not going to be easy to fit in a bunch. But we might have to make some uncomfortable roster decisions, like rostering guys we usually wouldn't roster, because we need the Dominators, and if they just don't crash out of the race, you might be looking just fine. So we'll go over the pricing in a little bit, but just know we need Dominators. Drill that into your head. You have to have Dominators in your lineup. They are more valuable than place differential guys on this slate. Place differential guys are still important, but I mean, guys that can lead 100, 200, even 300 laps are going to be very, very important in this race, and if they're super expensive, it doesn't matter because they can knock out their price tag if they happen to do that. And also keep in mind, this is the short track aero package, which means it's going to be high horsepower and low downforce. And I think we've seen some pretty decent races in the aero package so far this season. But I think that's pretty much everything you guys got to know. Just drill in your head. Dominators, 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 very important here at Bristol. All right, now we'll go on to the main sheet and do the driver by driver breakdown. And like I said, DraftKings did a very good job of pricing up these Dominators. Hamlin's at 12,000, Harvick's at 11,600, Keselowski's at 11,200, which is the most expensive I think we've seen him all season. And he's starting on the pole, and usually the guys that are starting closer to the front tend to be priced down a little bit. So Draftkings is not playing around here at Bristol. They are priced up these dominators with the exception of Ryan Blaney, which we'll talk about. But yeah, let's start up top. We had Denny Hamlin, 12,000, very, very expensive price tag coming in as starting 7th. I know he's super expensive, so you're probably thinking, well, I'm not going to play Hamlin at 12,000. But look, if he comes out, leads 200 laps, and wins the race, it doesn't matter what his price tag is, because if he scores over 100 DraftKings points, he can easily be a better value than pretty much the entire slate. So yes, we have to have interest in Denny Hamlin. We might have to make some uncomfortable roster decisions with these guys starting down low. And to be honest, this is kind of like my first rundown through the entire slate, so we're going to be talking through this together, and we'll see you guys are all the way down low, because I haven't really taken too much in-depth thought on these guys starting all the way down here yet. But I know the dominator is going to be very important here. Denny Hamlin is an elite performer here at Bristol. Almost won the race in the spring, and he would have too if he didn't spin out with about around 10 laps to go. He led 131 laps in the race, which was the most of any driver, and he looked absolutely excellent, and I would be shocked if we don't see that once again. I mean, average running position of 9.7 here. He has a win, which easily could have been 2 wins. 3 top 5s, which easily could have been 4. Some of the most laps led per race at 36.8. And if you're looking at how he's done in this aero package this season. Now, like I said, it's hard to... Well, actually, no, I didn't say that. So one thing I should mention about Bristol, I usually have the track type form here, which if you're doing 1.5 mile tracks, it's very easy to compare that to other 1.5 mile tracks. Bristol is very unique. You can't really compare it to any other track. If you're going to compare it to one, I would say Dover is probably the most comparable because it's also steep and it's concrete oval. But even then, it's still, Bristol is just so unique. So what I did, instead of the track type form, I put how they performed in the short track aero package this season, because I feel like it's the best thing I can do. We got 7 race sample size with that. So that's what I'm going to run for you guys. So keep in mind when you see that, we're looking at all the tracks that are below 1.3 miles in length. Richmond, New Hampshire, Dover, Bristol, Phoenix, and I'm probably missing something off the top of my head, but that's what we're looking at for the track type form this week. But anyway, Denny Hamlin at these types of tracks this season, average driver rating of nearly 100. He has a win, 2 top 5s, and some of the most laps led as well at 54.7. So I see no reason why Denny Hamlin can't be a top play on the slate. Now, I will say the price tag is very scary, so I'm not sure if I'd get there in cash games or single entries, because you got guys like Elliott, Busch, Joe Legano, and even Ryan Blaney. They're a lot cheaper and easier to fit in your lineup, so I understand if you don't want to go with Denny Hamlin in cash games, but overall, he is an elite play on this slate. Now, Kevin Harvick, 11,600, he's starting 4th. I think he's interesting because Bristol really isn't a big Kevin Harvick track, which is crazy to say because Kevin Harvick is just absolutely fantastic at pretty much every single track he goes to. But if you're looking at the past 6 races at Bristol, he's got 0 top 5s, which is obviously very surprising for someone like Kevin Harvick. 3 top 10s. I mean, obviously he's going to have usually a solid race, but he's not really someone that typically dominates too much or does very well at Bristol. I mean, 0 top 5s and 11,600. I need a guy that's got potential to lead 100 plus laps, which Kevin Harvick obviously does. He was decently fast in the spring race here, but he led 0 laps, and if you're looking at the past 6 races here at Bristol, only 6 laps led per race. Now, he actually has the second most fast laps at 38.7, and he has the fastest car this season, and if you're looking at how he's performed in this aero package this year, it's been absolutely phenomenal. He's got a win, 4 top 5s, 48 laps led per race, and the most fast laps. Running position of 6.7 and the second most DK points per race with the second best driver rating. So I'm not going to doubt Kevin Harvick here, but I wouldn't mind being a little bit underweight just because Bristol's not really a huge track for Kevin Harvick, and you're not going to be able to play all these guys. Harvick, I mean, if you're building 150 lineups, I'm going to have exposure to pretty much every single dominator possible because look, if I miss a guy that's going to lead 100 plus laps, I'm dead. So I got to have exposure to all these guys. But Kevin Harvick, I mean, I'd rather play Denny Hamlin. Hamlin is better at Bristol, and he's just not he's not a typical Kevin Harvick. It's like every single track, Kevin Harvick is pretty much good at. Bristol, just one of those tracks he's a little bit so-so at. Average running position of 14.7, which is right on par with his average finish of 14.7. Averaging 52 DraftKings points per race, which is fine, but I'd just be a little bit careful with Kevin Harvick. He also hasn't been too great at night races this season. Now, he had a fast car last week at Richmond, but that penalty kind of screwed him. But he was so fast after that. He was picking up every single fast lap. He unlapped himself. Very impressive by Kevin Harvick. But I will say the night races, he hasn't been too awesome this year. And I don't mind being a little bit underweight on Kevin Harvick. It's not someone you fade completely. I don't think you play him in cash games or single entry GPPs, but I like him in tournaments. But it's not super excited about Kevin Harvick. Now, Brad Keselowski, 11,200. He's starting on the pole at a track where we have 500 laps, so I have to have interest in Brad Keselowski. He's also been absolutely phenomenal in this aero package this season. Team Penske as a whole has been very fast, and Team Penske is very, very good at Bristol. And if you want to stack Team Penske this week, I have no issue with that at all. You can fit in a Keselowski, a Legano, and a Ryan Blaney quite easily, actually. And I don't mind that at all. Now, I know Joey Logano's on the front row with Brad Keselowski, so the place differential is not that high, but place differential is really not too important at Bristol because these guys can both lead laps. And both are great at Bristol, and Ryan Blaney is very good at Bristol too. So I'm all aboard Team Penske this weekend. If you want to do a Team Penske stack as your main lineup, no issues with that at all. And Keselowski did win the spring race here. Now, albeit he got a little bit lucky because Chase Elliott and Joey Logano wrecked each other at the end, and one of those two guys were going to win the race. But, it's better to be in the right place at the right time, and that's just something Brad Keselowski tends to do. But he's in the best position to lead a lot of laps here, and as long as he keeps the lead after the competition caution, Keselowski can easily lead over 100 laps in this race. But if you're looking at his numbers at Bristol recently, he's got 2 top 5s. He's got a win, 52.2 laps led per race. And if you're looking at how he's done in this aero package this season, he has been by far the best driver. He's got 3 wins, 117.9 driver rating, 6.4 average running position, 4.9 average finish, the most DK points per race, and the most laps led per race. So Brad Keselowski, my favorite spend up option on the entire slate. You're going to play him in cash games. He is in the pole here, and look, I think there's a good chance Keselowski racks up a ton of points in this race. Then going down to the 10K range, we have Chase Elliott, 10,700. He was one of the guys that could have won the race in the spring, but him and Joey Logano got into it. Chase Elliott kind of sent it a little bit and hit Joey Logano, and it wasn't too pretty for my lineups because I was very, very heavy on Chase Elliott and Joey Logano. It was looking good at the end. I was like, okay, it's going to be a very good day. And then that happened, but things like that can happen. But I like Chase Elliott, very, very good at Bristol. He was great at Dover. Well, the first Dover race, I should say. He kind of wrecked out early in the second one. But earlier in the season, he did lead 88 laps at Bristol, and he had one of the cars to beat. So I definitely like Chase Elliott here at 10,700 to get a little bit of a price salary relief off from the guys like Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, and Denny Hamlin. Chase Elliott, very good at Bristol. No wins recently, but 2 top 5s. And some of the most laps led per race at 45.5, 24.8 laps led per race as well. If you're looking at how he's performed in this aero package, no wins, but 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and some of the most laps led per race. So I do like Chase Elliott here. He has been very good at Bristol. Now, Kyle Busch, 10,400. He's starting 9th. I hate saying it, but this is a Kyle Busch week, I think. He's been a hard guy to trust this year, but Bristol is Kyle Busch's track. He is the god here. And earlier in the season, even though he struggled this year, Bristol he was really, really good at. He led 100 laps, made the optimal lineup, and he was first in average green flag speed as well. So I think Kyle Busch should be fine here. If you want to pair him with Keselowski, I have no issues with that at all. I think you should probably use at least one of the front row drivers in most of your lineups just to lock up those early dominator points. But, there's going to be some lineups where I don't. But if you're just playing cash games, probably going to need one of the front row guys. But I love Kyle Busch here. Starting nice, so you get a little bit of PD upside as well. The price isn't too bad. And look, he is fantastic at Bristol, averaging nearly 100 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 5.2, running position of 9th, 103.7 drive rating, 3 wins, 5 top 5s, 79 laps led per race, which is the most. And I was going to say, does Ryan Blaney have more? He's at 73.8, but Kyle Busch got the most laps led and the most fast laps as well. Hasn't been too great in this aero package with 0 wins. Obviously, we know Kyle Busch does not won a race this season. He is struggling without practice, but he still has 3 top 5s. He's been fine. I say fine, but given his price tag, he's not really been fine. But like finishing position wise, he's getting strong finishes. He's just not getting up front, winning races or leading many laps. But at Bristol, he's done it earlier in the season. I don't see why he can't do it again. So I do like Kyle Busch here quite a bit, and Bristol is just very, very good track for him. And then going on to Martin Truex Jr., he is starting 3rd at 10,000. And on the flip side, Kyle Busch is fantastic at Bristol. Martin Truex Jr. sucks here. He just can't get good finishes. He is very unlucky here, which you can't really factor in luck too much. But he's just one of those guys that just can't get good finishes here at Bristol. You got an average finish of 21.8 here, running position of 15.9, which isn't much better. Drive rating of 81. 0 wins, 0 top 5s, not even 1 top 10, and only 1 top 15 and 3 top 20. So only half the time he's finishing inside the top 20. Only 8.7 laps led per race. Now, oddly enough, he's got 24 fast laps per race, which is actually not too bad. That's kind of up there with Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski, and even more than Denny Hamlin. But Truex is just the guy that's not getting up front at Bristol and not getting good finishes here. Now, he's done well in this aero package this season. He's got the most top 5s with 56.5 DraftKings points per race, running position of 7.9, and just overall very good numbers. But at Bristol specifically, It's not been a Truex track. I wouldn't fade him completely because he is starting third, and look, obviously he's a fantastic driver, and one of these days he's going to have a good race at Bristol and surprise us all. It could happen here. He's been racking up strong finish after strong finish, it feels like, for a couple of months now. So I don't hate Truex in tournaments, but I will say the track history is just, it's gross. It's very gross, but I'm not going to full fade him because he is starting third, so there's a chance he could get up front, and if he can lead 100 laps, and even if he finishes like 10th, if you lead 100 laps, it's probably going to be good enough, especially if he picks up those fast laps. I don't mind Truex in tournaments, but not one of my more favorite plays on the slate. Dropping down Joey Legano, 9,700. He's starting second. Actually, one of the cheaper dominators I think is viable here. Below 10K, so we get some salary relief, and he's pretty darn good at Bristol. He could have won the spring race. He didn't really lead any laps, as he only led 2, but he's still very good here at Bristol. Looking at his numbers, one of the better average running positions of 9.3, 2 top 5s, and 40.7 laps led per race, and 21.2 fast laps. And once again, he's been very good here in this aero package. Or not here exactly, but this season at this aero package. 62.8 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 6.7, which is third best, only behind Keselowski and Kevin Harvick. Running position of 5th, which is the best, drive rating of 114.9, a win, 4 top 5s, and 6 top 10s, and the third most laps led per race. So I think Joey Logano's fine here. Yeah, you can pair him with Brett Keselowski because even though they are starting 1-2, you don't get a lot of PD upside. I mean, there's a good chance those guys can both lead a lot of laps in this race. I'm a big fan of Team Penske here heading into Saturday night. And Joey Logano, I like the price point, so he is a very good play on this slate. Eric Jones, 9,400. So it feels like it's been a while, but I am back on the Eric Jones and Ryan Blaney train this weekend, so hopefully it's going to go well. But Bristol is a very good track for Eric Jones. He did finish in the top 5 here earlier this season, I believe. It was either in the... I know it was a top 10 for sure. I think he cracked the top 5, but he's very good at Bristol. Looking at his numbers, he's got an average running position of 11.3. He's got 3 top 5s the past 6 races here, and he led around, not exactly 300, but he's very close to 300 laps led a few years back here at Bristol. But he's got 48.8 laps led per race here, 25.8 fast laps. If looking at his numbers in the air package this season, it's not going to be too impressive. But again, this is a very unique track, and Eric Jones is pretty good here. Starting 20th, it's a nice PD play, but the thing is, I'm going to value dominators over place differential guys, and Eric Jones is at 9,400, so it's going to be hard to fit him in, because if you're playing, let's say you're playing Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Brett Keselowski, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to fit in Eric Jones in either, so he's kind of more of a GPP play. I mean, he's safe starting 20th, but I want dominators. If I can get Joey Logano starting second, $300 more, but he's got the potential to lead 200 plus laps, I'm going to side with Joey Logano, so I'll definitely have more Logano exposure than I will Eric Jones, but I think he's a fine tournament play because he is starting 20th and he could potentially top 5. Then Kurt Busch, 9,100. He's starting 13th. He's kind of in a weird spot for me. He's very good at Bristol, average finish of 7.7, which is actually second best, only behind Kyle Busch. So the Busch brothers are both very good here at Bristol. He's also a recent winner here. He's got a win, 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s. Not really a lap leader, but very, very consistent. And he was running not so great because of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. crashing into him earlier in the spring race here at Bristol, but somehow, someway, he found himself getting another top 10, and he's been very consistent here, and he's having a pretty consistent season so far. I mean, he's just racking up strong finishes for the most part. He's not a flashy driver, but I think there's a good chance he can top 10. He's a GPP play starting 13th, but again, this is going to be a tough range for me to play these guys because I need dominators, and Ryan Blaney's a couple $100 cheaper than them, and he can certainly dominate here. He's very good at Bristol. So it's going to be tough to play him, but I don't mind getting some ownership on him just because of how good they are at Bristol. Now, dropping down to the 8K range, Ryan Blaney, 8,800, probably my personal favorite play on the slate. We are getting a potential dominant here at Bristol, who's very good here, at only 8,800, starting 14. So you get the PD upside, and you get the dominator potential as well, and it's very easy to pair him up with a guy like Joey Logano or Brett Keselowski. Again, big fan of Team Penske here, but I do like Ryan Blaney. Now, he does get quite unlucky here. If you're looking at his average finish, it's 17.7, which is not good, but his average running position is actually one of the best of all drivers at 8.8. And it's actually not one of the best. It actually is the best. He's got the best average running position here at Bristol. This season in May, he was running first, and he got passed, then he was in second, and then he ended up getting, I forget what happened. He was in lap traffic, and I believe he spun out. Then Ty Dillon just absolutely rammed him, ending his day where he finished last. And then a couple years back, he was in first, and once again in lap traffic, he got wrecked. So he's getting very unlucky here, but he's very, very good at Bristol. He actually has the second most laps led per race here the past 6 races at 73.2, only behind Kyle Busch. He's got 0 wins, but he's got a top 5, 4 top 10s, and again, he runs very, very well here. He's just getting very unlucky, but now, I will say Ryan Blaney's been having a very unlucky playoff so far, but he's got to win. And that's also the motivation factor, because if he wins, he can advance. and that's really the only way that's going to happen. And he was also quoted saying, if he's behind you and he's faster than you, he is not going to stay behind you for very long. So he's going to be very aggressive here. It could be a wreckers or checkers situation here for Ryan Blaney, but at 8,800, sign me up. He is very good at Bristol, and I love that price tag. So I'll have quite a bit of Ryan Blaney on this slate. I also really like Jimmie Johnson. He's 8,600. He is starting 24th, and he actually started 24th in the spring race, and he cracked the top 5. I believe he finished 3rd right behind Clint Bowyer and Brad Keselowski. But he's pretty darn good at Bristol. One of his last wins here was at Bristol. And if you're looking at his numbers, the past 6 races, 51 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 9.2, running position of 11.3, 0 wins, but 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, no laps led. But, I mean, starting 24th, he's been pretty fast in his aero package this season. Looking at his numbers, averaging nearly 50 DraftKings points per race, an average finish of 11.1, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and averaging 6.6 PD spots per race. But he's starting all the way back in 24th. So, I mean, there's a good shot Jimmie Johnson cracks the top 10. He could crack the top 5 as well. He's shown quite a bit of speed. He's definitely going to be easier to fit in than Eric Jones because he's nearly about $1,000 cheaper than Eric Jones. So I'll have more Jimmie Johnson than Jones, but I do think Johnson's a pretty good place here if you want some PD upside. Clint Bowyer, 8,400, another strong play. He's starting 11th, so I think he's more of a GPP play, but he's very good at Bristol. This is pretty much one of his best tracks, if not his best track. He's averaging nearly 60 DraftKings points per race here, average finish of 8.2, finished 2nd here earlier in May, running position of 9.8. 1 top 5, 5 top 10. So 5 out of the past 6 races here at Bristol, he has finished inside the top 10. 24 laps led per race as well. If you're looking at how he's performed in this aero package, it's actually been not too bad for Clint Bowyer. He's pretty good at short tracks, average finish of 10.6, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. So I think Clint Bowyer is a fine GPP play. People are probably going to shy away from him starting 11th, but I don't mind being overweight on him in tournaments. And then Eric Almirola, 8,200. This is not very good track for Almirola. If we're just looking at his numbers, he's got an average finish of 28.2, a running position of 21.4, 0 top 5s, and only 1 top 20. Not really going to be a lap leader. If looking at his numbers in this aero package, it's been a lot better than his numbers at Bristol. He's got an average running position of 12th, drive rating of 91.5, no top 5s, but 4 top 10s. And overall, he's been very, very consistent, racking up a ton of top 10s this season. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite plays. I'd rather play Clint Bowyer and MDB in this price range, and Jimmie Johnson and Ryan Blaney. So I guess he's my least favorite play in the 8K range, but he's fine in tournaments, but not someone I'm going to go crazy over because, again, I'm going to prefer dominators, and it's going to be a little bit hard to fit these guys in. But MDB, 8,100, starting 16th. Bristol is a pretty solid track for him. He almost beat Denny Hamlin last year, and he cruised his way on to a second-place finish. But I don't mind MDB here. 8,100 is a nice price point, starting 16th. He's got potential to crack the top 10. He's got 1 top 5 here, which was last season, 2 top 15s. Again, most of these races were in pretty bad equipment. If you're looking at how he's performed this season in this aero package, average finish of 15.9, running position of 14.5, 2 top 10s. Overall, not the greatest numbers, but starting 16th, he's a fine tournament play because he can certainly crack the top 10. And he's pretty much Team Penske for the most part. So if you want to go full Team Penske, you could go MDB, Blaney, Joey Legano, and Keselowski. That should be able to fit if you wanted to go like a full Team Penske stack for the most part. But really only a tournament play for me. Going to William Byron here in the 7K range. He is starting 15th. Looking at his numbers at Bristol, not all that impressive. Average running position of 16.9 here. Average finish of 17.2. And only 1 top 10. If you're looking at how he's done this aero package this season, it's actually pretty impressive for the most part, especially in this price range. He's got 4 top 10s, 1 top 5, 86.3 drive rating, and average running position of 13.1. And he did finish 8th here earlier in the season, so I think he's okay in tournaments. I wouldn't full fade the guy, but not someone that's going to really stand out for me and not really a cash game target. Austin Dillon, 7,800, starting 5th. I don't know where that speed came from last week, but that was absolutely insane. I had 0 Austin Dillon. I just didn't see it happening, but he had one of the best cars. He led a lot of laps, and he had a ton of fast laps. Dude, I forget exactly who was the leader in the fast laps, but Austin Dillon, man, he crushed. He looked fantastic, and he's been bringing some speed, but not really a big Austin Dillon track for him. If we're looking at how he finished in the spring race, he did finish 6th, which is actually not too bad, but I don't love it. I don't love it. He's a fine tournament option if you think that speed's going to carry over. But if he was starting further back, I'd have interest. But he's got 4 top 15s here, 1 top 10. But starting 5th, I mean, you got Stenhouse here starting 21st, who's $200 cheaper. I'd probably rather go there. And then you got guys like Ryan Newman and Christopher Belfort cheaper as well. So not really on Austin Dillon. If you want to throw him in a couple of lineups, I don't mind it, but he's not going to grade out too well in projections. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting 21st at 7,600. So he's pretty good at steep tracks. It's his best track type, And he's not terrible at Bristol. I wouldn't say he's fantastic, but he's got an average running position of 20, drive rating of 71, 1 top 5, 2 top 15s. It's just, I don't love it, but he's a fine PD play. But there's guys I like that are a bit cheaper than him, but he's a guy that you could just kind of sprinkle in for the most part, but not too excited about using Ricky Stenhouse. I feel like now he's performed in this air package this season. It's not been that great either. Only 1 top 10, 64.3 drive rating, and average running position of 21.9. So he's not really someone I'm too excited about, but he feels a bit safer than Austin Dillon because I feel like they could end up finishing around the same position. And then going down to Alex Bowman, 7,400. He is starting 8th. He's got some okay finishes at Bristol. For looking at his numbers, he's got 2 top 10s, he's got a top 5, 3 top 15s. He's just more of a tournament play, not a guy that's kind of really great out in projections. I hate to keep saying that, but some of these guys are just so, like I don't really have too much of a stance on them. Like I'm not going to be like playing a lot of these guys. Maybe you throw around like 5% just in case they happen to get up front, but overall I wouldn't say it's his strongest track on the road. Average running position of 18th here. Running position of finish of 17.9, only averaging 25 Draftkings points per race. And he also wrecked out of the last race, which again, not really his fault, but Bowman's kind of just an in play that I'm not too excited about. But Ryan Newman, 7,300, he is starting 25th. I do have some interest in Ryan Newman. This is a pretty good track for him, and I know he's a boring play. You can pretty much pencil him in for your 15th place finishes most week, but not too bad at Bristol. Average finish of 10.5 here, running position of 13.9. He's got 3 top 10s. He's finished inside the top 15 each of the past 6 races here. And if we're looking at how he did in the spring, he did finish 15th, which that's what Ryan Newman typically does. He finishes around 15th place, and I would take that starting 25th at 7,300. So I don't think Newman's a pretty bad play here. If looking at his numbers this season, the air package, not that impressive, but again, this is a very unique track. I don't mind Newman. He should grade out decently well in projections. And then Christopher Bell, 7,100, he's starting 18th. He's a pretty good short track racer. He only has 1 race here, but it was pretty impressive. He gained 26 spots, finished 9th, had 61.5 DraftKings points. Starting 18th, I don't mind him here. There's not a lot of PD upside here, but Christopher Bell is a pretty good short track racer. And he did well here in the Xfinity Series, too. And if you're looking at his numbers at the Aero package this season, not all that great. He's had some unlucky races, but 2 top 15s, 1 top 10, which was Bristol. But, I mean, I like Christopher Bell here. I like the price tag. I like where he's starting. It might keep people off of him a little bit starting 18th, but it would not surprise me if he gets, top 12 finish. Then going down to Cole Custer, 6,900. He is starting 12th. He wrecked out of the last race here at Bristol, so you can't really put too much stock into the numbers. He didn't really race that long. He had an average running position of 28.6, but again, you can't really put too much stock into this. He was fine here in the Xfinity Series, and if you're looking at how he's performed in this Aero package so far this season, the numbers are pretty good. Average finish of 16.6, running position of 17.2, 3 top 10s, and 5 top 15s. The problem is he's starting 12th, so not a lot of upside here, but it would not surprise me if he could finish right around where he starts or crack the top 12 for sure. So I think Cole Custer's fine in tournaments, but just a little risky for where he's starting. Bubba Wallace, 6,800. He got a top 10 finish here earlier in the season, and Bristol's not a bad track for Bubba here, so I don't mind him starting 27th. He's got an average finish inside the top 20 here. Average running position of 20.9. He has got top 10, which I already mentioned earlier. 2 top 15s and 4 top 20s, averaging 7 PD spots per race. So definitely don't mind Bubba. He's actually a pretty good play on this slate at 6,800. Tyler Reddick, 6,600, starting 17th. He was one of the other guys that wrecked out of this race, but he was fine here in the Xfinity Series. And he's done well in the short track Aero package so far this season, so he's a fine tournament play at 6,600. I like the price point. I mean, the guy's got a top 10 potential car pretty much every single week, so I don't mind Reddick. Yeah, I like the price point. John Hunter Nemechek, 6,400, starting 31st. He has had 1 race here, but he did finish 13th. Now, it was a little bit of a hectic race. I believe there was over 10 cars that didn't finish, so that helped a little bit, but he was running well. He had an average running position of 15.9. It's not like he just lucked out at the end. He finished 13th, had a drive rating of 76.3. I think he's an okay option. I mean, 6,400 starting 31st. I mean, he should grade out pretty well in projections, just value-wise. I haven't ran mine yet, but I'm just assuming it's going to. So I'm definitely a fan of John Nemechek, and he provides you some salary relief as well at 6,400. So definitely don't mind the play there. Matt Kenseth at 6,300. He is starting 19th. Now, it's kind of hard to use these numbers because it's a 2-race sample size, and it's pulling some numbers from quite a while ago. But it was a good track for him. Average finish of 10th the past 2 races here. Average running position of 10.3. Looking at how he did this year in the spring race, which is really the only numbers we should look at, he did finish 16th, I believe, starting 14th. If he finishes 16th, starting 19th, it's not great. But if you can get a top 20 from a guy that's nearly around $6,000, it's definitely not the worst thing. If you're looking at how he's done in this Aero package this season, average running position of 18.9, which is kind of right around where he's starting. 1 top 15 and 3 top 20. So nothing to get too excited about, but at the price point, he could be a fine GPP play. Ty Dillon, 6,100. He's starting 28th. I think he's an okay play here. He did make the optimal last year, which I had him, and it was actually the winning GPP lineup, so I'm always going to have a soft spot for Ty Dillon at Bristol. But overall, I wouldn't say it's his best track in the world. Average running position of 25th, drive rating of 53.2, average finish of 26.5. He did wreck out of the race in the spring, which is going to skew the numbers a little bit, but at 6,100 starting 28th, I think he's fine. He's got potential here. He's got a top 15 in 2 top 20s. He's not done that well in the aero package this season, though, only averaging 18.6 DK points per race with 1 top 15 and 2 top 20s. But look, if we win our dominators, we're going to have to fit some of these scrubs in, and Ty Dillon, starting 28th, is fine. I mean, he should be able to gain a few spots. Chris Buescher, 6,000, 23rd. Kind of a similar play to Ty Dillon, where he hasn't been all that impressive at Bristol, but he's got top 20 potential here. And if you get looking at his numbers, average running position at 20.7. He's got 2 top 20s. Looking at his numbers in this aero package this season, average finish inside the top 20, 2 top 15s, and 4 top 20s. He's okay, nothing exciting, but you're pretty much just mixing and matching all of these guys down low just to fit in your studs for the most part. Michael McDowell, 5,900. He is starting 26. He did well here in the spring race. Pulling up his numbers really quick, he did finish 14th, which is actually pretty good. And he's only 5,900 starting 26, so I think he's certainly viable here. And again, we're just using these guys to fit our high-end studs. He's got 2 top 20s here and only 1 top 15. Overall, the driver rating is only 44.5. He's got an average running position of 27th, but he's actually improved this season. He's looking pretty good, and I think he's somewhat interesting looking at how he's done in the aero package this season. Average finish inside the top 20 and 4 top 20s, so definitely like Michael McDowell at that price point. Ryan Preece, he's cheap, 5,700, and he actually had a pretty good race here earlier in the spring. He ended up finishing, if I can pull it up on my phone here on the notes. So, yeah, he finished right behind Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick finished 11th, and Ryan Preece finished 12th. That's kind of thing about Bristol. You can see some of these scrubs finishing decently high, like Timmy Hill, of all people. He ended up finishing 19th, which was above Martin Truex Jr., so some of these scrubs can certainly get some strong finishes, and that's going to be helpful because we need to fit in our dominator, so you're going to see a lot of stars in scrubs lineup, and the scrubs definitely have a decent chance here on the short track. So don't mind Michael McDowell or Ryan Preece. And Corey LaJoie starting 30th, 5,500. I think he's a fine option if I can see how he finished earlier in the season here. Pull it up really quick. Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. Okay, so he finished 32nd with a fuel pressure issue, so you kind of got to throw that out the window. But starting 30th at 5,500, probably going to end up being pretty popular. I mean, he's not in the worst car in the world if you're looking at his numbers, the aero package this season. Or, I'm sorry, I'm in the 2020 statistics. Let me go back to Bristol here. So Corey LaJoie, looking at his numbers, average finish of 29.5, running position of 28.6. Not good at all, but if you're looking at the aero package this year, it gets a little bit better, running position of 25.4. And 1 top 20, but again, we just need some of these cheap guys to not blow up. And starting 30th, there's a decent chance you could gain a few spots. So don't mind Corey LaJoie. Daniel Suarez not starting at 5,400. He is 5,400, starting in 29th. He actually finished 18th here, right behind Denny Hamlin, which again, Hamlin did spin out of the race and wreck out, but he did finish 18th. Which, look, this goes to show you that some of these scrubs at Bristol can get some strong finishes, and at this price point, I'm interested at 5,400, starting 29th. Now, if you're looking at his numbers here at Bristol, you got to throw most of those out the window because he was in different equipment. He was very good here. Now, he's kind of like a 30th place car for the most part, but he got another top 20 earlier in the season. But you got to throw these numbers out the window for the most part. If you're looking at how he's performed in this aero package this season, he's got an average finish of 25.6, running position at 27.7. I think he's okay just for some salary relief, but again, it's nothing too special. Garrett Smithley, I usually say you can X all these guys out, but the way the slate is with all these expensive dominators, I wouldn't hate maybe throwing one in the lineup. Only one, though. I wouldn't go 2. But Timmy Hill, again, you got a top 20 here earlier in the season, which was absolutely insane. One second, really quick. I mean, it's not like that I would expect that to happen again, but the upside is there, just if there's some wrecks and he has a clean race. Greg Golding, 37th. Like, you can just mix and match these guys. Only one. Just mix and match them with your studs just to fit those guys in. But I wouldn't go crazy on any of these guys at all. Like, very, very low ownership. But I wouldn't hate just throwing a few in just in case you need, like, that triple dominator lineup of, like, Kevin Harvick, Hamlin, and Keselowski. If they both happen to lead 100, if they all three happen to lead 100 laps, if you throw in a guy like Timmy Hill and he happens to finish 25th, starting 38th, it's probably got a decent chance of hitting the optimal. So I don't hate a couple lineups like that, but nothing to go too crazy on. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope it was helpful. If it was, make sure you leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it. Check out my NFL content if you play NFL DFS. Hopefully you'd find that helpful as well. If you made it all the way through, Let me know. Comment your DK username below if you want in the DK contest. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. Follow me on IG. And if you want to support my content on Patreon, the link's down below for that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll see you on the live stream.